your patience. Um, so it's a lot of information for 50 minutes. So I will get us started. I will also share, I am very much a sharer. I don't keep resources to myself. I want everybody to have the resources. So you will have, I'm putting in the chat, the PowerPoint where you can either follow along. We have activities on here too. Um, and just to be able to get us started. So in the chat, I've put the PowerPoint for you to follow along if you'd like, but I'm going to go ahead and get us started on our slide. Let's double check. Okay, let me just move some Zoom things out of the way so I can click through.
네, 네, 잠깐만요. 별이리와.
And what I am
Sensitivity
going,
team.
oh, no, you're good, you're good. What I am going to share, we're going to work through a whiteboard today. I do have a note taker for you if you'd like to use it. It's this document right here on slide two. I will also put that in the chat if you'd like. If you want to use it, great. It's just going to be able to follow along with our notes. If you have your own note-taking system, also great. So don't worry about that. But the note taker is just this being able to follow along with our conversation today. And then where I am going to have everyone go is as we get started, if you can, in this link here, right, slide one has this link. I will also put this in the chat. Sorry, I'm putting so many links in the chat, but just so if you can follow along. Um, just on page two. No, on page one. Here, right, pick a post-it. If you want to change the color, you can. So right now I'm grabbing a post-it. If I want to change the color, I want it green, whichever, go for it. And then just you can start typing on it right away. You can zoom in. I know it's small to see, but you can just start typing, right? Put your name and your favorite emoji. Here are the emojis. You can scroll through if you want some more. Put your favorite emoji. I will, this extra love one could be mine, right? And that's, we can start there. So let's just do a quick 2 minutes to set up your post-it, whichever one you want, change the color if you'd like, just your name, and your favorite emoji for now. And then we're going to do a second part of this activity here. And I'm realizing I didn't share that part of the screen. I apologize. It stayed with the presentation. I apologize. Let's, okay. But I see a lot of you are on there already. So thank you. So let's do 12 minutes after the hour. We'll come back together.
So for those who joined late, please click the last link, and then we are on a page which you can see on the share screen. You have to type your name and your favorite emoji.
I'll share one more time in case people got here later. About 40 seconds, and then we'll go back to our second part of this activity. Okay. Feel free to continue as I move on. Our second activity will be an extension of this, so it'll be good to go through. Okay. So we did my intro. We're good there. Um, little bit of why we're doing this activity, right? So you've already grabbed a virtual sticky note. Up here, I have a dreidel, right? As mentioned in my introduction, I'm Mexican American, so that I bring that into my culture, and it's really important that you also bring that into your classroom, right? And you allow students to show their culture within the classroom and create a shared classroom community. So I'm going to show one quick video of students playing this Todos Ponen game. That's what it's called in Spanish. It's a dreidel game, right? You could either play with coins, you play with beans, right? You spin the dreidel, and depending on what the dreidel says, if it's like you put one in there, then you put a coin in. If it's you take all, then you get to take all, right? So this is just a traditional table game that kids grow up playing. So I like to bring it into the classroom because then they can make connections and are using their language um, as they continue to learn. But also in our educator lens, right? Yes, I'm gonna show you a couple of strategies today, but there's a lot of strategies that you already come in with. So I want to be able to share those strengths with everybody. And again, I'm sharing with you, but you already have lots to share with me. And I want to share that expertise with the Zoom room. So let's look super quickly at this video. And this little red is the big dreidel that they're spinning. And right, I'm sure the classroom is learning a counting activity and they're putting in chips here. But just to give you quick 30 seconds of what the Todos Ponen game looks like.
Todos ponen de una ficha. ¿Qué digo yo? Muy bien, ahora ya consigue. Está bien, tengo dos. Ok. Toma, toma uno de ahí una ficha. Muy bien. Toma uno.
Okay. So just a quick, I'm sorry. Just a quick idea, right, of what the game looks like and how we can bring in games into our learning. So I wanted to share that with you. So then let's come back over to our post-its. So now here you've written your name. Can you also add what activity, how are you supporting your language learning, your students' language learning in your classroom spaces? So go ahead and we'll do 2 quick minutes to do that. I know I'm moving a little quicker, but we have lots to do today. Let's do 2 quick minutes. How are you supporting your students in their learning? And if you are looking for the question exactly, it's this, right? Um, write down a language learning strategy you're already using in your classroom. And we'll come back together at 18. It just turned. I'm just going to put a little thinking music in the back. about 30 seconds. Let's do 10 seconds to finish up your thought. Lots of great ideas already. We won't get a chance to read all of them, but I already see great ideas, right? Having students play games, Kahoot was mentioned, Fly Swatter, right? If you're not familiar with Fly Swatter, of students being able to read a word and then use a Fly Swatter to match it to that word. Um, some really good ideas out here too. OTPR, right? Total physical response, ensuring that they're engaging a physical movement with a vocabulary word or a new topic that they're learning. Um, I support language by drawing, singing, songs, great, right? Talking with children, teaching new vocabulary, encouraging children to express their thoughts and ideas during play and daily activities. So lots of wonderful ideas that you're already doing, and you have your colleagues' ideas here to turn to and come back to as a reflection. If you're still writing, you feel free to continue. I'm going to keep us going, but we're going to come back to this whiteboard um, um, later today. So again, you already have lots of strengths. I'm just going to give you one more strength to be able to share. And let's see. This is gonna stay. Can I think from the it carried over from the whiteboard. Okay. I can't delete it. Sorry, guys. But again, Kahoot's a great activity. Okay. So let's start thinking about backwards planning. So I know speaking with Kang, and there's no full one specific set of standards to be used, but I do think that there are a lot of resources worldwide that you can refer to. Here, I have three. Um, Right. So WIDA language levels. WIDA in the US is an organization recognized for supporting English language learners. They do a lot of research, lots of really good resources. So again, you have this PowerPoint. And actually I meant to share it for if people got here later, I'm resharing the presentation. I just put it in the chat. So the presentation is there. Um, Here on the PowerPoint, I'm now starting on slide 8. This is slide 8 if you want to follow along. It's linked to the WIDA homepage, so if you want further resources on WIDA, feel free to just click on that link that's in this image. Again, we only have a short amount of time today, so there's only so many resources I can go through, but you have one there. And then the United States also uses Common Core state standards, standards that are used across the majority of the 50 states. Some states choose to not use them, but this just helps have connection from one state to the next. And then where I am right now, I'm in Illinois, so I am going to focus on the Illinois standards for today. It's the ones I know the most, and I think they're focused on teaching Spanish to language learners. And I want to show you the same way that we break down the standards to teach Spanish is the same way that you could do it to teach English, or to teach any other subject matter, of course. So these are the resources I'm working through today, right? Um, I wanted to give you time to look at this document. Um, let's I mean let's do 2 quick minutes too. Um, Sorry that I feel like everything is very, very quick, but there's so much information that I want to share with you all. So I'll put this again here. Let's do 2 quick minutes. If you'd like to just explore what the standards document is look like, it's 350 pages. You will not finish this in 2 minutes, absolutely. But just so that you could see what does it include, um, and how it builds from year to year. So we can, as we dig in, this will look at shortly too what this table signifies. So if you want to look at that table on page 11, I think that would be helpful. And then just as you go down, right, starting on page 17, kindergarten starts, and then all the way to high school year 12 in the US. So let's take another 2 quick minutes to look at this. I'll put it in the chat. Um, so we'll just do a PDF review for 2 quick minutes so that you know this document that I'm going to refer to in today's presentation. Let's do. Okay. Um, you've gotten a very quick chance to look at the standards. Before I continue, I put three emojis that might seem very random in the chat. Um, Am I speaking too slow like a turtle? Am I speaking too fast like a bunny? Or am I at the right pace so I'm at 100%? So like the emoji that you feel is most accurate. Am I speaking too slow like that turtle? Am I speaking too fast like or heart the bunny? And then if you think I can keep going as is, then the 100%, please. Just little good feedback for me. I know virtual sometimes is a little hard. I also know I can talk fast. So let me know. I'll give you like 10 seconds. Okay. Good data for me. Okay. We'll keep moving forward then. Thank you for that quick set of data. Um, and I'll keep going. Okay. So again, you got a very brief look at our Illinois standards. Those are the ones that we're going to be talking about today. So, right, unpacking the standards. This is what I mentioned, page 11. We have standards for reading literature, for reading informational text. So this is nonfiction text, literacy skills, writing, speaking, listening. All of these sections have standards that I think are very useful, which is also why I wanted to share the Illinois because feel free to use it for your application too. Then unpacking the standards. What does it mean to unpack the standards? When we have a standard, unpacking it literally is breaking it down into different sections, right? We're going to identify the following. What's the verb? What is the action that students are required to do? What knowledge, what content is it asking of them? And then what cognitive level? We're going to do a review of Bloom's taxonomy. I'm sure you've heard about it before, but I always like to review this with teachers because sometimes it's like, oh, I learned that in university, but I haven't seen it in so long. So I always like to do a good refresher and get good feedback there. And then example of a aligned task, whether it's classwork that they're going to do or homework that they're going to do. And then differentiation, right? Do I have students who are at the very beginning level of their English learning, so they need more support? Or do I have students who are higher on their level of their English learning and they need to improve their writing, right? So how do I differentiate for all my students in the classroom? So I'm going to give you an example of an unpacked standard. So this one is Kinder fluency. So Kinder LF point 3 is how we would refer to it, right? So the LF coming from here, lectura for foundational literacy skills right here is the one that we're looking at. And so this standard is apply knowledge of sound letter correspondence when reading words. That's what the standard is from the document. Now, with my educator lens, I'm going to unpack this standard. Right? My verb is apply. My content is sound letter relationships. So students will be able to apply these sound letter relationships to the words that they are given. The cognitive level that I'm asking of them is very basic because, again, it's initial application. I'm also thinking through it's kinder, so it's going to be easy levels. And then an example task, an example classwork, example homework might be color the letter that makes the sound of a list in the syllables, right? So then students would identify that sound letter correspondence given the syllables that I've given them. Now, where does Bloom's taxonomy comes into play, right? Um, Again, I'm sure you guys have seen these previously, but I think it's something that very important to continue to think through as we plan for our lessons, right? Am I asking students simply to remember something, right? Memorize something? Then that's very low level. It's important, but right, it's not very rigorous. It's not very difficult for students. As we go up Bloom's pyramid, we know that it's asking more of students, right? All the way to the top, they're creating their own examples. Maybe at the kinder level, they're creating their own images. They're describing what they've learned in their own words, right? Versus remembering, I am telling them what to memorize, all the way to create, where they are telling me their own version of what they have learned. So just a good refresher. In your note taker, you also have this pyramid. I will say a lot of the standards also use these words, right? Create. You'll see we just saw apply, right? So use information in new situations, some verbs that are similar to that, execute, implement, solve. And then you will see a lot of analyze in the standards also. So draw connections among ideas at the higher grade levels, right? If I give them one text to read and then I give them text two to read, they get to compare both of those texts. So how are they similar? How are they different? How do the characters develop? So as we think through how am I going to use these standards, I do have to think through how rigorous am I going to make it for students also. So I do think it's important that we keep Bloom's taxonomy in mind as we unpack these standards. Okay, so just reflection questions, right? As I unpack these standards, these are the questions I'm asking myself. Which verb reveals the cognitive demand, right? Is it analyze? Is it apply? Where does it fall within my Bloom's taxonomy? Are students recalling information or constructing meaning, right? Are they remembering? Are they understanding on their own? Or am I asking them to create something themselves? What language supports are needed for students to engage at this level, in whether it be Spanish, English, or whichever language? Now, we're going to walk through an example together. This one jumps up to third grade example. So this is reading literature at the third grade, and it's standard 9. Compare and contrast the themes, settings, and plots of stories written by the same author about the same similar characters, right? So books from a series. In this example, and you can feel free to put it in the chat or come off mute. Let's answer this first one together. Which verb reveals the cognitive demand? You can put it in the chat if you'd like. In this example, which verb reveals what students are doing? We have analyze and create, analyze, evaluate, create. You guys are my advanced students and you're thinking about the next step already, but super easy. Just compare and contrast, right? The verb here telling us is compare and contrast. And again, my advanced students in the chat, you're already thinking analyze within Bloom's taxonomy, right? They're either going to analyze, evaluate, analyze, apply or create, or evaluate. So I have some examples here too, thinking through this one standard. I can go four different ways on Bloom's taxonomy. This is where differentiation comes in, and I have to know my students. Are they ready for fully analyze and evaluate? Um, or do I have to make it slightly more simple and just apply and create for them, depending on where they're at, right? So thank you for my advanced students being ahead of it. But yep, you're on the right track. This is the next then where we would go, right? And I'll just read you the first example. If I were to choose, they're either going to analyze or evaluate within Bloom's taxonomy, right? The standard is asking me compare themes across stories or contrast themes across stories. So what students would do, identify similarities and differences in central messages or lessons and explain those how those themes change. This would fall within analyze and evaluate. But I can also change it three different ways depending where my students are ready for the lesson. Now, within the document of standards, it's also really important that I know if, in this example that I'm sharing with you right now, if I'm teaching kindergarten, I have to know how that standard then connects to first grade because I want to make sure that I actually stay within what I'm supposed to teach in kindergarten. They're going to see other stuff in first grade. I don't need to dab into that just yet. I need to focus on kinder so that they meet that standard and are prepared for first grade because otherwise if I get ahead, then I'm losing time and not teaching them other kindergarten stuff, and I want to make sure that they are able to cover everything and are prepared. So you're going to see shortly, I call this vertical alignment. Well, it is called vertical alignment, and it's important that we are aware of that vertical alignment so that we are using our time with students wisely. This language standard we have here, form the plural of regular nouns by adding s or es, right? And then the example might be, I have dog, I add s, now I have dogs. But then I also have to know when sometimes the rule changes. I have tablecloth. Now here I have to know I have to add es, and excuse my typo right there. Tablecloth, I add es, right? So this would be the standard in kindergarten. When we go to first grade, it's use nouns in their singular or plural form, employing correct noun-verb agreement in basic sentences. So here I see, here they have to, I already know when it's singular or plural, and then be able to add the correct ending. Versus first grade, you already know if it's singular or plural. You've done that in kindergarten. Now I'm making it more challenging for you, and there has to be noun-verb agreement. So this is how these two standards align with each other. So let's take a little bit of practice again. I'm going to help you with the first one, just maybe a little bit better modeling on my teacher side. So for this example, right, we're sticking with the same standard. Form the plural regular nouns by adding s or es. The verb here would be form. Okay, in this example, the verb would be form. What content are we asking of students? You can go ahead, either come off mute or put it in the chat. What content are we asking of students? Yes, what are we asking them to do? Yes, thank you for the feedback. Yep. They're going to identify plural or regular nouns. They're going to, yes, there you go. Plural forms of regular nouns and the rules for adding, yes, that's what we're asking them to do. Cognitive level, again, thinking of Bloom's, since they are forming their own nouns, right? And again, at the kindergarten level, I am asking them to create. So this one is more rigorous. It's not just color in the example that I give you. If I give you one dog, two dogs, you circle the correct one, right? That's lower level remembering, understanding. But now they're forming their own words. So this one would be a higher cognitive level task. An example of this might be, right? I give them an image and I tell them, for example, if let's stick with the dog example. If I give them one dog, but give them the number three, they would then have to identify, oh, actually, she's telling me three dogs. That's plural. I need to form the word dogs, right? So then that is a higher request for them. I'm going to keep us moving just because I am seeing that time is flying by and I want to be respectful and end on time. But we have I do have different examples here where I break it down for you, right? Um, the examples of what is needed for the specific standard and how to unpack it. Then I have a first grade example for you and how to unpack it. Same thing, where does the first grade example go into second grade? And then I have a second grade example, and how does that second grade example go into third grade? So again, just so that you could continue seeing how they build on each other. Um, that vertical alignment that I mentioned, how to first goes to second and then second to third, is also really, really important. I do want to give you some time to practice because I think this is what's most important. Um, and this is where I do want to give you a solid 5 minutes to be able to practice here. Um, so if you again, if you there's not a set of standards that you've looked at, I want you to start your research process. And I'm not saying resources coming out of the United States are the only ones. I know Kine has mentioned that the England, United Kingdom has a lot of resources that you could also use in order for teaching English. Whichever country, whichever resource you'd like, start that research process. So start thinking through of what standards would you like to use. And so I'm going to give you 5 minutes just to do a little bit of exploration. Do I expect you to find it in 5 minutes? No, but start to get some ideas of, oh, this resource seems really strong. I might like that one, but this resource has more about English learning, whatever you would like. So time to explore. I want to give you that time. If you are already if you are already using standards within your practice, then I want you to practice what we did, right? Choose a standard from your grade level, underline the verb from that standard, identify the content, what is it asking students to do, and then define the cognitive level within Bloom's taxonomy, right? Is it asking them to remember, understand, apply, analyze, create, whichever one it is. So if you already have a set of standards that you're using, great. Let's do a little mini practice of how do you unpack those standards. If you don't have standards, also great. I want to give you this time to start looking and being able to research what standards you might want to start to use in your practice. Questions about what we're going to do for the next 5 minutes? Okay, let's do this for 5 minutes. I may cut it a little short. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to make the decision. Let's do 4 right now. 4 quick minutes to explore, and then we'll come back together. A little less than a minute before we come back. Okay. I hope, again, if you were able to start researching, at least starting to get an idea of where you want to look and what standards you want to use. And then if you already have standards, again, just getting into this practice of what does the standard tell me to do? What do I need to do with students? And how do I make this standard work for my students who need more support and my students who are ready for a challenge, right? So that is the importance of being able to unpack a standard. I do want to show you why it's important that we have this, right? And I'm going to skip a little bit because we're not going to have time for this activity. Um, but I want to show you why it's important that we have our standards, right? So the end goal is to be able to have a document where you're saying, right, in this month of the year, I've taught these standards, great. In the other month of the year, I've taught these standards, great. So that at the end of the year, you can see, look, I've covered all of these standards with my students, they're ready to move on to the next grade, right? So that you have that confirmation of, yes, you've taught what they've needed to learn in this grade level. So you also have, I'm on slide 62, you have the standard checklist example, and I'll show you what it looks like. Just make it a little smaller just so that you could see. Right. So what I've done here is I've already pulled all the standards for kindergarten in this example, for first grade in this example, and then third grade in this, I'm sorry, second grade in this example. Um, and this is an actual work that I've done with the school. And then where we've addressed of great. Are you sure that all your standards have been covered? If they are not being taught, what do we need to change in our lesson plans so that they are being taught? So all of this yellow that you see here, again, I've made a copy of it so you can see this, and it doesn't have the school's name or anything like that. But you could see anything that what's in yellow is those are standards that they were not teaching, right? And obviously they were thought they were doing their best job that they could, but there were gaps. So I do think it's really important that we first you decide what set of standards you want to use, and then two, make sure that you are addressing all those standards and you can say, look, in my unit one, I'm doing this. In my unit two, I'm teaching this. And it's a long document. And again, I created this with a school a long time ago. But now with AI, right, just take the PDF document and say, hey, I want to use these standards from fourth grade, create a spreadsheet with a checklist, and you will have your document in less than 5 minutes, I'm sure. So this isn't asking a big lift for you, but it is making sure that you are teaching the things you need to be teaching in a way that is helpful for students. So I do think that creating a document similar to this will be very, very helpful. And again, this is the why, right? We want to make sure that we're covering the material we need to cover with students. And at the end of the year, you have that reassurance of, yes, they've learned what they needed to learn. I know I'm at time in regards to my part of the presentation, and I want to honor everybody's time and especially your commitment to be here. Thank you. Um, but if you could just share in the chat, um, either one. I take away, you don't have to, we don't do have to do a formal 3, 2, 1, but either a takeaway or a strategy that you want to try or a question. So one of these, one takeaway, one strategy, and then one question. And actually, I'm going to have us go back to, right, I'm going to have us go back to this page, but actually let's go on page 2 because I realize because of time, I combined activities a little bit, but let's organize it here. On this page, grab a post-it, whichever one you'd like. Just the little hand will come over, bring it over, make it big, however you'd like, and you can just respond here. So let's go ahead and respond here. And you could put either, again, your takeaway, a question, or a strategy you want to use in the post-it, whichever one you'd like. In case you didn't have the link before, it's in the chat now. And here I do want to give you some good reflection time, so let's do 3 minutes here, um, so that you can reflect. Oh, just kidding. I didn't mean to do that. I wanted to do a timer, but I apologize. You should be able to edit again. Hmm. Let's do one more minute. We'll come back at 56. I'm just gonna edit this person's a little bit. There. Okay. Um, Feel free to keep adding in here. That's why I like doing these Zoom whiteboards because I can come back and see the information on here. But we do have some really good questions so far. Um, right? How to manage when a student doesn't meet the class level standards, right? I think that's a great question, and it really depends case by case, right? Like, is it a student with additional needs? And is it appropriate to then use the previous grade level standards to make sure that they can master those grade level standards and then get to their assigned grade level? I do think that it depends case by case. Or is it a mixture of, let's say it's a fifth grade student, right? I want you to meet fifth grade level, but we're not at fourth grade yet. So maybe I mix in some fourth grade standards along with your fifth grade, so that you have the fourth grade standards to support the fifth grade standards. That could be an example, but again, I do think it's just very specific to students of what they may need. Or it's I keep you with the fifth grade standards, but thinking about Bloom's taxonomy, right? How do I make it as simple as possible for students, even within those fifth grade standards? Um, Let me see. How to make a suitable curriculum according to my region, right? Like, again, the 4 minutes I gave you to research is not enough. So yes, just being able to find a resource that works best for your specific need, absolutely. And I hope that this process of how to unpack the standard is helpful in you deciding what that resource might be. Or if it's a matter of you making the resource too, right? Like that might be an option, but I know that will absolutely take more time. For the students I just lost the question, but for the students who only speak their native tongue, their mother tongue, right? And we don't speak that native tongue, how to be able to support them, right? So I think a lot of visuals, a lot of TPR that was already mentioned. I think now with technology, being able to use a translator to be able to support, I think would be very, very helpful. So lots of ways to be able to support, but I know that it is extra challenging because you're not able to fully communicate with the student. So know that I understand that situation. Um, do we need to consider the standard if we are forced to follow a certain curriculum, for example, a national curriculum or others like CEFR? Um, Especially within a national curriculum, they should also have their own set of standards. So I think maybe this one I have a follow-up question to be able to answer, but I would say they should hopefully have their own set of standards. So I think addressing those standards and breaking it down that way, I think would be really helpful. And then following the same pattern of now that I have these standards, how do I break it down and make it accessible for students? Let's see. Good. That was good practice for the standard. A takeaway, unpacking a standard helps me understand what students need to learn and do. Yep, strategy, I will underline the action verb, then identify the content in Bloom's taxonomy level. Great ideas. Thank you. I'm glad that that was a good takeaway for the session. Um, okay. Not seeing other questions, but if you want to either put them here in a post-it or if you want to put them in the chat, feel free to do so. If you please come off mute, I'd love to hear other voices, um, and be able to share and answer any other questions that you have.
I want to chime in a little bit here because for some teachers who work for the government schools and for some, private schools who already have a predefined, pre-identified curriculum, they don't have to plan lessons according to the standard. So that's why I feel like they are stuck here because they already have the curriculum and they have to use the curriculum and teach. So what they need to do is they just have to create some activities. If you're a teacher from that kind of school, um, this is, what Savi has been telling you is studying a curriculum and preparing a lesson from scratch based on the standards. So if your school do not have a standards or if you are using an existing curriculum, which have no clue about matching your standards, your students' level. That would be kind of like a big challenge for you because you have curriculum and your students' levels are different. So that would be a big challenge for you. But still, you can use the standards. But now you know how to balance what the goals for your students and what your students needs, and then how can you adjust by creating activities or by creating some lessons to help your students, just kind of trying to like um connect the dots so that I hope it helps you.
Thank you for that additional information. That at least it's helpful for the framing of the question. And I think exactly the way you explained it of like it's already done for you, great, but how are we making sure that that curriculum, even if it's not connected to a specific set of standards, how are we ensuring that that curriculum is unpacked so that it's accessible for students? Absolutely. And I would also say potentially still using some sort of checklist of, am I able to get through the full curriculum? Again, it wouldn't be unpacked through standards, but I think it's always really good to know of like, am I covering everything that I should be covering? And being able to confirm a solid yes, and this is when I'm doing it.
Okay, if you have questions, you can shoot, you can drop your questions in chat box, or you can also unmute yourself to ask questions. Salvador, thank you very much for very informative sections. We are very interested in the curriculum design. I'm not quite sure whether my question is related directly to you or not. We are a little bit familiar with the Bloom taxonomy to make a curriculum design or to craft questions. According to what Kai said, that the same. Yes, we have not much chances to curriculum design, but we are free to make questions. At the time, we we did questions or activity in line with the Bloom taxonomy.
Mhm.
My question is there any model like Bloom taxonomy? Because we are familiar with Bloom taxonomy. Do we have another model like Bloom taxonomy that we can adopt or we can use another models like Bloom taxonomy?
So you're saying something additional to Bloom's?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, the one that I've always come to and we continually like reinforce is Bloom's. If there's a more recent one, I am unaware of it,
Ah.
transparently. But I mean, Bloom's continues to be referred to and be like the source of truth in regards to curriculum design and what we want students to do. Um, if there is again, if there's a newer one, I am unsure.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we
Are you
make.
not a fan of Bloom's? Do you not like Bloom's taxonomy?
No, no, not like that. We have been using it a lot, and we have Bloom taxonomy a lot. We do we have other alternative or not? But that just to think about. Not because we don't like it. Yes.
Okay, okay. No, then you're good. If you're using Bloom's, you're doing great.
Yeah.
There's a question in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. Instead of just adding fun activities for a lesson, how can we weave engaging communicative tasks directly into the learning process to reinforce the standard? Um, I mean, I think both can be true, right? Like, I think the fun activity should be purposeful. Right? Like even how I started with the game of like when students play games, I do think there should be a purpose to that game, not just let's play a game, right? So I think it's a little bit of both of how do we bring joy for students, but also as the teachers in the room, like, yeah, you think you're playing a game, but you're actually learning. So I think that's really important. Um, and you could do that with a variety of different practices, right? Like even as simple as opening class of like you have a question for them to answer, and then them being able to talk with their partner, or being able to pick their partner and just having a daily practice so that they get that oral speaking time, and at the same time getting to hear the language that you want them to be speaking in, right? Depending on what time of day it is or what it may be. If it's English, the desired language, then giving them that practice time will be really helpful. Oh, I see one popped up in here, and this purple one. Um, what should a teacher think before planning curriculum, like pre-analysis of students' ability or something else? Um, I think first, right, you're thinking through of what students should be learning in that grade level, right? So coming back to my previous example, if I'm planning for fifth grade, it's what do they need to know by the end of fifth grade? A general education student, right? Like with no challenges, that is on grade level, what should they know at fifth grade? That would be my starting line. Then, right, I've planned this. Now, again, to the situations of like, I know I have the other students who potentially maybe they don't even know English yet, or they barely started learning it, and I know they're going to need a lot more support. But if I'm teaching fifth grade, this is what they should be learning. And then again, this is where Bloom's taxonomy comes into play. And then like, what supports do I need to give the student to be able to get here? So if you're thinking of, right, like building a curriculum on your own, the first step is does an average grade level student need to know in that grade level, and plan it that way. Then the second layer comes in of like, how do I get students who are below to get here? But the first step is identifying what students need to know by the end of that grade level. And then how often should a curriculum be updated in a school? I'm answering this question based on, right, like my experience within the US. It's definitely every 10 years. Um, just because, right, research is coming out on what are the best things for students and how do they learn. Thinking through the way we teach reading in the US has changed a lot in the last 5 years, right? So I won't get into those discussions. It's a lot, but it's changed a lot in the last 5 years. So a lot of curriculum is being updated because of that. So I do think every 10 years it should be revisited. Not necessarily let's start from zero and give me a brand new one, but every 10 years, let's revisit what is still working, what should we keep doing, and what's changed and what is no longer useful. Let's see if there's other questions. Mm. Not seeing other ones, but if you want to put them in the chat, come off mute, feel free to do so. I'm glad that was helpful for your question. Yeah, how do you support students with different levels, English levels in one class? This comes up a lot. Again, right? We're all doing the same task, unless there are certain situations, and I know there are certain situations where students may need extreme additional support, right? To answer this question, I'm going to put them to the side for a little bit, right? I'm focusing on general students who can meet the task, but they may just need additional supports, right? It's adding more visuals. Like I mentioned earlier, if they do need a translation support, what technology can we offer to them? And also supporting them with a bilingual buddy is what I like to call, right? If we are lucky enough to have somebody who does speak their mother tongue, partnering them up together to be able to support and allowing them to speak their mother tongue in order to feel successful, right? They should be able to know the directions for the class so that they know at least what they're doing. And then just building that relationship with them of like, it's okay. I understand you don't know English yet. And how can I support you to get there? I think will be really helpful. And I say that, and I know it's steps, right? Like maybe month one, it's, hey, you're using the bilingual buddy a lot because you need to know how this classroom works and you're still learning the language. But maybe month two, maybe your bilingual buddy helps you a little less, right? And by month three, I'm actually going to switch you and you're not going to have your bilingual buddy anymore. I need you to show growth on your part too. So, right, it's steps on how do we get them where they need to be. Um, oh, I thought I saw something else come in. Yes, yeah, the differentiation strategies. Thank you, Kind.
I guess that multi-level classrooms, teaching multi-level students in a single class is one of the most common challenges for the teachers. Okay, we have a hand raised from
Yes, teacher.
Nagini. Please go ahead, teacher.
Yes. So I also have learned that Bloom taxonomy. So firstly, I learn about like last minute you share that remember, understand, apply, analyze, and I also saw about the step. It's different. So another one is firstly, instead of remembering, it's knowledge, comprehension, application. That one. Is it the same or how is
Yeah.
going on? I just
Yeah,
mix up. Let me send in a chat.
they're the same. They're the same. It's just different examples.
Uh, now is I'm going uh for my student is just like you shared that firstly let's go remember and here is knowledge. So it's the same, right?
Yeah, they're just using synonyms, but it's same idea,
Uh
right? Of remember just like that memorizing low effort from
yes.
students all the way to high effort from students, which we're seeing
Uh,
similarities. Yeah. I think it's just using synonyms, but it's the same.
it's the same. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
That's a great
you.
question.
Yep.
Um, I was gonna come back to this, how I shared earlier, right on this image. I have the link for WIDA. So I did want to come up to WIDA of differentiation. And again, differentiation can be a whole other session in itself. Um, but WIDA does a great job of being able to differentiate across, right? Where are students in, I'm trying to find it super quickly. Are they at the beginning level of English, of their learning, intermediate, or are they more advanced? So if you look into um, the WIDA resources, they'll be able to also share, just like in this image that I have here, right? Are they entering their very beginning level English learners or all the way to reaching of they can speak English and maybe are just improving the higher level vocabulary or they're improving their writing. So in regards to differentiation, WIDA is also a really good resource.
All right. Any other questions or it doesn't have to be a question, anything that you would like to discuss? Oh, there's a question like in the
Oh.
chat.
Thank you. I am teaching kids in a village and quite inexperienced. I am using course books such as Kids Box and adding more activities like games, using stories and comic strips. That's great. But I feel like something is off. Where can I find the resources to understand more about the curriculum design? I'm unfamiliar with Kids Box itself, so I can't really say more to that specifically. But in regards right to curriculum design, I do think it's what I've shared of identify a set of standards that you would like to be able to use, and then go from there so that you're ensuring that students are yes, learning the language, yes, enjoying, right? It sounds like you have young students, and lots of games to be able to do that, and kind of connecting it to the previous question about games of like, let's ensure that yes, we're singing songs and but being purposeful of they think they're playing, they think they're just having fun. And as the teacher, I know I'm checking off that they're learning what they need to be learning. When we use differentiation in class, how can we make sure slow learners are not left out? Because sometimes we have to give more activities to the fast learners if they finish first, the first activity pretty fast. Yes. So I do think that comes into differentiation of what, so in my classroom, when I was planning, I would always have three activities. Um, Students would never have just one activity and we get the same, right? And I would know who are my students who need more support. Here's your activity. Who's my average student? Here's, right, like you're on grade level. Great, good job. Here's your activity. And who are my high learners who are going to finish fast? Here's your activity, right? Let's say, for example, if we were kind of how we talked about the standard, right? The standard about identifying singular and plural pronouns, if I go with that example, right? Maybe the students who I know need more support, they have pictures and I'm lower on the Bloom's taxonomy. And I have pictures for them and they identify which one's singular, which one's plural, which one uses the S, which one uses the ES. Pretty simple, right? Then grade level, um, potentially, I don't have the S and the ES for them. They add it on their own. So that's a little bit more of a challenge for them. And this is in itself differentiation. And then third, for my higher students, potentially I don't even have a picture for them. And they have to write the word themselves, right? This is where I'm getting higher into the create for Bloom's taxonomy. I don't even write the word dog for them. Right, they have to be able to know how to spell the word. So this is between these three levels. I have the most supports here. Middle, you're on grade level, but you still need some supports, right? Because you're still learning it. And then I have my higher kids, less supports. And how do I make your activity longer? Because I know you're going to finish first. So how do I give you a challenge within that activity? Yep. Exactly. When you differentiate, the lesson goal stays the same. It's the activity that changes, but students are still trying to achieve the same standard, the same goal.
Yeah, thank you for the questions and the engaging discussion. Do you have any other questions or anything that you would like to discuss?
Yeah, I appreciate the time. I hope it's been helpful. I do see there's a need for a further discussion on differentiation. But if you have other sorry, I'm going to scroll really quickly. If you have other questions, my email is here. Or right, if you reflect and think of something else that you might need, feel free to email me. I'm happy to answer anything else that you may think through.
Oh, there is one question coming in.
This is the
Oh,
final
yes, yes, yes.
question, Steve.
Um, are there any linguists whose taxonomies are more reliable and effective than Bloom's in the cognitive world? I'm maybe that's research for me, right? Because again, this is coming up again. Um, so I can look into it and kind of let you know. Again, I just know Bloom's taxonomy, but um, I'm happy to look into it.
But if you are looking at mostly about language and linguistic capacity, we mostly, refer to Bloom's. But in other, in other sense of like language acquisition, we have, for example, if you are, if you are in the translanguaging and bilingual, Ophelia Garcia will be a good resource that you might read. And what do we have? We also have Vygotsky if you want to like connect to how, language acquisition and the social connection. So it really depends on how you want to extend. So mostly when we look at the cognitive world, we mostly think about acquiring and language, right? How do they acquire language? So but in that sense, we only know mostly refer to Bloom taxonomy. So
Yeah. Right, and I think depending on the need, a combination of if you I mean Ofelia Garcia is wonderful and she's great in regards to translanguaging. But right, if we're speaking curriculum writing, I think Bloom's taxonomy would be more applicable with how do I design the curriculum, and then I would use Ofelia Garcia's to differentiate.
that's true. I guess designing a curriculum is a long process. We cannot cover everything in one session, and there's a lot more to discuss. But based on your questions, kind of like I understand what kind of sessions we have to plan in the future.
Good, good. I'm glad at least you're right, getting good feedback for what resources your team needs. That's always great.
Teacher Kai, there's no more questions.
Okay, so thank you so much to our speaker, Sylvie, and all the participating teachers and the engaging discussions. We really appreciate your questions and your participation, and I hope that this session will be helpful to your, profession and in your, everyday classroom, so that we plan to, organize more useful sessions in the future as well. Feel free to reach out to us via, our Facebook page if you